No role is more important on the far right. One of the issues with this is that since the beginning of this country, marriage was known to be between a man and a woman. It's always coming from one side, this moving further away from traditional norms. You know, something that I like to talk to is about how the world politicizes Christian values. And you can see that really anywhere. You can see examples of that all over the place. The way woke culture loves to desensitize people to just regular heterosexual relationships. You can see that in our music, the way our music promotes promiscuity. Recently, there's been a rise in this whole idea of the trad movement, right? This is the idea that we want to restore gender roles. We want the man to be the provider and the leader, and the woman should be feminine, should be home taking care of the kids. One of the issues with this is that God is not a crucial part of that movement. And so although some people in there are very religious or they do follow God, it's not seen as a necessity to be part of that movement. And I think that's a problem, because a woman shouldn't submit to a man unless that man is submitting to God. And if God is not in the center of their relationship, then the relationship is not going to look balanced in the way that it should biblically. This is one of the reasons that I tell Christians all the time, like, yes, there is a lot of things that the world is doing to stop us, but we control culture of the future church. Adopting children, being married, all of these things are important, and those are cultural battles that people on the left have made political, because those are not political things. Since the beginning of this country, marriage was known to be between a man and a woman. It's what it was. That's just the definition of it. And since the beginning of time, God has ordained it that way. Now, in the last 30, 40 years, things have changed drastically. And we're seeing redefinitions of marriage. We're seeing redefinitions of what relationships are. We're seeing all these redefinitions. One of the people to do that most, and kind of one of the media outlets at the front of that, has been Vice News. This is a great example at how progressives, in particular leftist progressives, treat values that are inherent to Christianity, values like womanhood, femininity, and also values like marriage. And so let's start watching a little bit.
I think of women back then not being able to vote and having the whole one house, one vote thing. Why would you marry a man who wouldn't vote in your best interest, or you wouldn't agree with politically to begin with?
They sort of position themselves, or they have this posture of, as a woman, I can speak to what feminism really is. Women who feel threatened by it, women who don't see a place for themselves. They think that feminism has made the world a worse place. They think that it is ultimately an anti-woman project. They also describe partnership and motherhood as political action, because when your whole project is about guaranteeing the future of whiteness, fulfilling all of that is a matter of politics.
So you see, what's interesting here is that they frame it like we've politicized it, like people on the right have politicized marriage, but that's not true. She also claims that people on the right believe that feminism was detrimental to womanhood, and that's objectively true. Who pushed the sexual revolution? The left did. Who pushed the normalization of promiscuity in our culture? The left did. Who pushed sexual liberation? The left did. Who was pushing the excuse my language, the slut walk a few years back? The left is. It's always coming from one side. This moving further away from traditional norms that's been a political push. And so it's not that these people on the right are making marriage and relationships political. It's that because they've made it political, now people on the right have to meet people on the grounds of politics and say, well, you want to redefine core things about our society with legislation. We're going to fight with legislation that protects it. That's all that's happening here. So when you see people like this on the quote unquote right, you have to understand there's a lot of tricks going on here. The first trick is called a straw man, where they're taking one person's opinion and they're making it as weak as possible and then attributing it to an entire group of people. So I know some of the influencers in this production here, and I can tell you personally, they all believe very different things. The woman that spoke first, this woman with red hair here, and the woman next to her, are not people that I would consider myself politically aligned with. There are some things that we agree on, just like there are some things that we agree on with people on the left too. But by far, their identitarianism is not something that I agree on. And I speak about that a lot. And almost no genuine conservative that I know believes what they believe. They've taken the furthest example of what a right-winger is, and they've judged a political ideology with that. that is a straw man, and that is deceptive in nature. And so when you're watching these kind of documentaries, you have to understand all of these people are individuals, right? They're compiling all these people and putting them into one thing and making it seem like they're all these ultra racist, white nationalist people. And that's not the truth. That's not the case.
Got this cute ad-friendly makeup look.
Figures like the Canadian alt-right star, Lauren Southern, operate as independent, empowered entrepreneurs and consciously use the same social media strategies as other online influencers to build their following.
Underestimated the amount of people that were going to be here. I said there was only going to be 1,000. There are thousands. Hey, someone who watches the channel. How's it going?
Alongside the anti-feminist rhetoric from influencers has been the growth of an entire online subculture known as tradwives.
See, okay, so they're conflating tradwives with far right extremists and the policies that they hold. Now, this lady right here is Lauren Southern. Let's explain something about Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern is one of the most honest journalists you can follow. And there's multiple reasons that I won't go into for saying that. But what I will say is that they took this part of a skit from her YouTube page and used it as if she was vlogging herself doing that in real life. That right there is deceptive, right? And what she has written on herself, which I won't say for the algorithm there is a good explanation for.
Don't listen to this narrative of feminism that is killing white Western society. Don't buy into it.
The trad movement is this movement to celebrate women who are in traditional roles. You are creating
God forbid.
content that celebrates, that, highlights how good the trad life is. It's making traditional gender roles seem appealing, seem cool, seem a part of the future. But if you really spend time with it, and you look at some of these, Instagram accounts or TikToks, what you'll realize is it's as much about what it's against as what it's for.
Thank you for not being ashamed to be traditional, to be Christian, to be conservative, and to be white.
I'm feminine, not feminist, right? And so seeding these ideas that, you want to be like me, look how great my life is. Children love me. Men love me. Like, look how celebrated I am in comparison to, right? You'll start to see the ways in which being trad is also about being anti something, not just pro-tradition, but anti-progress. No role could be more important in the far right than being someone who is willing to uphold a society of traditional gender roles and to have children and raise children within that society.
And there it is. No role is more important on the far right than to raise up women who want to be traditional and aspire to gender roles. This is what I'm telling you, dear Christians. They've taken the values that God has established for us since the beginning of time, and they've politicized them. And if you believe in these values, if you think marriage is a good thing, that being a woman is a good thing, that being a man is a good thing, and that the two should be together and have a child, and that child should be raised in the family with the mother and father, if you believe that that is the ideal, then you are considered far right to these people. Now, what they do to try and discredit you is they'll throw in another person there that says something about being white and who is obviously a racist. And then that discredits the whole idea, or it's supposed to discredit the whole idea. But I'm sitting here as a brown person telling you that that is not the case, right? I don't agree with that person, obviously. We as Christians have had our morals co-opted by a world that hates God. And if we want to do something about it, we have to pursue those values despite being mocked for it. So I just want to end this with a Bible verse that I think kind of sums all this up, that kind of speaks to what we're talking about. And let's go there real quick. This is James 1:22. I love the book of James. This is the James, brother of Jesus, writing and showing us exactly, kind of writing a manual for how to be a Christian, right? And so let's dive into this here. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in the mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and preserves, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed. If anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. Religion is that pure and undefiled before God the Father. It is this: to visit the orphans and the widows in their afflictions, to keep oneself unstained from the world. Keep yourself unstained from the world. That is what I'm trying to say. Make sure that the world does not hinder your ability to rationalize the things that God has written for us already. And this is something that culture constantly tries to do. They constantly try and make you reimagine what relationships are supposed to look like, reimagine what style is supposed to look like, reimagine what love is supposed to look like. They are in the business of reimagining. Why? Because the enemy cannot create, he can only reimagine. He can only distort, he can only change things. He can't create anything from scratch. So what does he do? He takes marriage and he switches it up. He takes love and he switches it up. He takes success and he switches it up. And so, my dear Christians, please stop letting the world defile you. Be doers of the word, meaning listen to what God says in the book and do it. Right. And part of that is having a true understanding of the values that we hold as Christians, and not letting people say that they're political, not letting people say that we're far right if we believe in those things, because it's just not true. So I know that about 60% of you guys are not subscribed. So make sure that you subscribe, make sure you like this post, and make sure you comment and let me know, did I go too hard? Was I being a little bit brash, or should I ease up on it? Make sure you check it out, and make sure you check out the other videos and the patreon.com too. See you later.